But first, let's talk about big stories. All right. And if I had to give us one top headline of the week this week, it's Big 12 coaches on the hot seat. There are a lot of teams that, not just my Frogs, that have fallen dramatically short of expectations, a lot of very upset fan bases. John, as you see it, here at the midpoint of the season, which Big 12 coach is sitting on the hottest seat?
Well, I think there's a lot of coaches that seats are starting to get a lot more hotter as the year continues to go by. UCF has not looked good over the last 2 weeks with Gus Miles on. Losing to Colorado is one thing, but you got embarrassed by what should have been a Florida team that you should have beaten by all accounts. That's a little bit of a big blow right there for UCF. What else? On top of that, you have TCU. Sorry, Clint. I mean, I'm a little surprised to see the Horned Frogs at this position, even after beating Kansas as well. Lol. Anyways, I had to get that shot in there in a bye week, so I had to. Yeah, they thought they could be safe, Clint. They thought they could be safe. Not a chance at all. I think in terms of answering your question, Clint, Dave Aranda at Baylor, I'm shocked he hasn't gotten fired at this point. And part of the reason why I kind of feel bad for him is really just how the schedule kind of falls in line. You got Utah you have to play in week 2. Then you start off conference play facing the likes of Iowa State and BYU. Those are the top 3 teams. I'm in Colorado as well. That close nail-biting overtime game where Shador threw the Hail Mary and the Buffs were able to pull that one off. But, the further we get away from Baylor's 12-2 season in 2021, the more it looks like it's becoming more of an anomaly. And to make matters worse, the last time Baylor beat a Big 12 team at home was Kansas in 2022. That was the last season the Bears beat a pre-existing Big 12 team in league play as well. Now they're going to have to come back against UCF and Cincinnati on the road. The unfortunate reality is that things just aren't working out between Aranda and Baylor. And honestly, Dave Aranda was kind of one of my favorite Baylor coaches to go along with Scott Drew and Jerome Tang, now who's in Manhattan. I thought Dave Aranda was a great guy, but it seems like things are kind of falling out off the rails in Waco, Texas.
Yeah, you're right. And as much as I would love to poke fun at Baylor, TCU's really not in all that different of a position, man. Almost an exact same position coming off of our own magical season. And here we've been 6-10, I believe it is, in the Big 12 since that. And most of those wins have come against, teams that were not Power 5 2 years ago. Right. I mean, it's terrible. And I know a lot of TCU fans are about ready to call it quits on the Sonny Dykes experiment. I mean, he's a great guy and there's a lot to like about him, a lot like Dave Aranda. Dave Aranda seems like a wonderful person, but it's like at a certain point, you got to get results on the field. And TCU is a team that doesn't appear to have any identity, doesn't appear to know how to play disciplined football, how to play football at all. Right. I mean, you're a 17-point favorite against Houston at home and just get absolutely your head kicked in. I mean, it's terrible, man. It's terrible. And I don't know. I mean, a lot of people have articulated it in more depth than we're going to have time to do on my show right now, but it's a mess. I do think, though, from a TCU perspective, as much as folks would like to see us move on, if this turns into a bowl-less season, which in all likelihood it will be, I have a hard time believing that Jeremiah Donati is going to fire Sonny Dykes 2 years removed from national championship. I think he gives him another year. If we don't make a bowl game, I think that's a huge mistake. I think that we're in way too precarious of a position right now in college football to fart around and hope for the best. You got to put your best foot forward. You cannot afford. The last thing any team can afford to be is irrelevant in the college football landscape right now. And that's what TCU is. That's what TCU is doing right now.
Yeah, especially when you're in the Big 12 and you're trying to fight for relevancy as an entire conference, seeing if you're able to get more than one automatic bid into the conference, try and get 1 or 2 additional at-large bids. I mean, it's pivotal in terms of where a lot of teams are at. You kind of want to talk about TCU. being located in a heavily football concentrated area, a lot of money to back things up. You just can't have several of these performances, and it's kind of similar to UCF in a little bit. Again, you're in a hot football market. Get a lot of recruits in. Yeah, it's just the expectation levels are going to continue getting higher and higher. And when you can't meet those, then eventually it's going to go down the train where Baylor is going at the moment. So we'll see what happens. TCU has a bye week. Boy, they got Utah.
You lose this week.
They got Utah for a 9:30 kick in 2 weeks, Clint. I gotta give you some advice though. Drink
heavily all day. Is that true?
Drink as much chocolate milk as you can at 9. All right, that helped me get through K-State and BYU a few weeks ago. So that's my friendly advice.
Yeah. Daniel Loomy, I see him chiming in. Most disappointed in OSU with all the returning players. Yeah, I mean that's another one, right? How is Oklahoma State in the position that they're in? I mean, my gosh, that's a team that I was fully expecting to be in Arlington this year. And they've just been a complete and utter disappointment. There's no better word for it. And if I'm an Oklahoma State fan, I'm starting to have, the conversation that TCU had to have with Gary Patterson a few years ago. Hey, man, you're a legend here. We love you, Mike Gundy, but something's not working anymore. Right? We just at a certain point, you gotta figure out when it's time to cut the cord.